So at this week's Japanese Grand Prix, Yuki Tsunoda will be filling in for Liam Lawson, who has just been dropped by Red Bull. Adding this to the list of the multiple drivers that Red Bull have dropped. And we're going to be looking at all of them today.
You know, I have a song prepared for Liam. I'm just learning guitar. I started around late January, so 3 months at this point. And Liam plays the guitar, so I have a perfect song for him. Really mellow song from his favorite movie, Cars. And that song is Real Gone by Sheryl Crow. You see, you get it? Real Gone, like his seat.
Was that too soon? I don't know. I thought it was funny. Anyways, let's start off with the godfather of number 2 Red Bull drivers, Mark Webber. Before we start with today's video, let's try to get 10,000 by June. It's not looking very likely, but I do believe it's possible. And let's also try to get 200 on Instagram. Now, Mark Webber first joined Red Bull in 2007 alongside David Coulthard. And if I'm not mistaken, 2007 was actually the first season where Red Bull were able to keep a full seat. Well, in his first season, Coulthard did beat him by 4 points, but in the second season, yeah, that's a pretty hefty amount. But I'm pretty sure Coulthard was also pretty unlucky, like in the Singapore Grand Prix. Could have got that podium, then the Red Bull pit stop mishap. But back in the day, Toro Rosso and Red Bull would pretty much run the same car. And look who beat both of them. So for 2009, Toro Rosso finally dropped this idea, and they're going to be using a different car to Red Bull. A car that could not challenge for the championship at all. And in Mark Webber's first season with Sebastian Vettel, it's not a good look for a veteran driver. So it was pretty clear who was the better driver at Red Bull. In 2010, he was actually involved in the infamous title fight we all know today. And he was actually leading the championship in 3 different points of the season: Turkey, Hungary, and Monza. But after his generational fumble in Korea, Webber trails Alonso by 8 points going to the final race of the season. So the championship is not completely out of grasp. It's still possible, but it's still looking less likely. And what happened?
Kubica P5, du bist Weltmeister!
And from 2011 to 2013, Webber was terrible. Okay, he wasn't that bad in 2012, but 11 and 13 are seasons that he would want to forget. I mean, sure, he did win a race in 2011, but that was at the very end of the season when Seb already finished the championship. And in 2013, that was just outright terrible. So that's the godfather, the daddy of number 2 drivers at Red Bull. And now let's head on to the other list of number 2 drivers at Red Bull. Arguably the ones who got the worst end of the stick. And it will only take 2 years for the next victim, Danny Kvyat. After finishing behind Jean-Eric Vergne in the 2014 F1 season, he was going to be replacing the departing Sebastian Vettel and pairing alongside Daniel Ricciardo. Really, don't ask me why, even though he finished behind Vergne over a whole season, they still picked Kvyat over Vergne. But it wasn't a bad choice because in his first season, Kvyat finished ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Now granted, Red Bull were garbage in 2015, but if we look at the head-to-head, it's actually pretty decent considering Ricciardo was best of the rest in 2014. So, going into 2016, Kvyat showed that he definitely had the potential going forward, but things start off a bit shaky. A DNS in Australia, and finishing behind Max Verstappen at the Bahrain Grand Prix whilst getting lapped, and Verstappen did not get lapped. He completed the full race distance. China. This was actually a pretty good move by Kvyat. I don't get why Seb was so angry about this. This was a good move. Seb just had a snap of oversteer trying to avoid Kvyat. But this was a great dive from Danilo. It was similar to Franco Colapinto's dive in Singapore last year. And he claimed the final podium spot, finishing P3. Not a bad performance. And then we head into Russia. And at the very next race...
Daniel, we've all seen the statement from Red Bull about why this move was made, but what are you telling yourself about it and where you go from here?
Now, a lot of people were saying at the time that this was a harsh move by Red Bull. I'm pretty sure Jenson Button even said that. And I also agreed at the time. I was 9, so I don't know. I pretty much agreed to anything. But
the smiles will be out. At 18 years and 227 days old, Max Verstappen wins a Formula One Grand Prix.
And after this, Kvyat just started drowning for the rest of 2016, scoring in the points only 3 more times while his teammate Carlos Sainz finished in P12, only 8 points off of P10 Fernando Alonso. 2017 wasn't great either, and his season ended really early in 2017. Took a hiatus in 2018, was actually driving for Ferrari as a test driver, and in 2019 came back pretty solid, still not the best. I actually thought that they should have picked him up instead of Alex. Speaking of Alex, you remember who went before Alex? But before we talk about Gasly, do we want to count Ricciardo? Because Red Bull didn't really kick him out, they still wanted him to be in the team. It's Daniel who made that own decision for him to leave because he was scared of Verstappen. I don't know, let me know in the comments below. But anyways, time to talk about Pierre Gasly. Gasly had a decent rookie season, like his full rookie season 2018 because he debuted at the 2017 Malaysian Grand Prix. Gasly had a decent rookie season in 2018 and had a best finish of P4. I don't think he was the best rookie from 2018 though. I think Charles Leclerc was a lot better than him, but it wasn't bad at all. And this moment in the Singapore Grand Prix would perfectly describe their situation for 2019. Leclerc was exceptional. Gasly, however, not quite. Come the midway point of the season, Carlos Sainz, who was in the midfield McLaren, was only 3 points behind Pierre Gasly. And ironically enough, in that race, Gasly was struggling to get past Sainz. So, rightfully, Red Bull dropped him for Alex Albon. And funnily enough, at the German Grand Prix, Alex and Gasly had a crash. Poetry. Would I say Gasly was rightfully dropped? I'm a bit 50-50 on that because I do think he should have been dropped, but not for Alex. I think he should have been dropped for Kvyat because Kvyat, honestly, in my opinion, impressed me more than Alex in the first half of the season. So, let's see what Alex would do for the second half of the season. And it was actually a lot better than Gasly's first half. His head-to-head was a lot closer, granted on a smaller sample size, because Gasly was only able to outrace Verstappen once. And Gasly's best result with Red Bull was a P4 in the British Grand Prix, but a gifted P4 because Seb and Max had this crash, and Alex was actually about to get a podium on merit until Lewis Hamilton knocks on the door. So Alex had quite a few expectations for the 2020 season, considering he was not really exceptional, but he was decent towards the end of 2019. At least he was better than Pierre Gasly. And what happened in 2020? Yeah, I do think there are a couple of reasonings to this. Number one, I don't think the Red Bull family had a lot of confidence in Alex. And number two, Lewis Hamilton completely shattered his confidence in the Austrian Grand Prix. But other than that, I don't know, he was just really off the pace. I mean, 100 points off his teammate, finishing behind 3 different cars that he had a significantly better car. And the power unit then, their freaking Renault power units, apart from the Racing Point. The Racing Point had a better power unit. And on the head-to-head, he never finished ahead of Verstappen. It was 0. Was this season bad? Yes, but I think if a few things went differently, Alex would have performed much better. So, I don't really put this against him, and he's proven that he can be a magnificent driver. I mean, the first 2 races of this year and 2023 prove that Alex is a great driver. Anyways, time to talk about the next driver, who was Alex Albon's replacement, Sergio Perez. Before we talk about Sergio Perez, I made a Spotify playlist of all the background music featured in my videos. So yeah, go check that out if you're interested. Link in the description. Now, Perez is probably the most controversial one because one could argue that he was there for way too long. Now, Perez was picked up by Red Bull for having an exceptional 2020. I mean, 2 podiums and his first ever win in F1. It showed that he can be a good number 2 to Verstappen. And in his first season for Red Bull, I don't think this was his best season for Red Bull, but I'll get to that in a minute. His first season for Red Bull wasn't really all that bad. It was pretty decent. I still think Bottas was better, but the difference between Bottas and Perez this year is that Perez would show up in the moments where he needed to show up, and Bottas left the door wide open for Verstappen at the Russian Grand Prix. My only issue with Perez in 2021 is that he would not be there for a lot of the times because Bottas had 11 podiums and Perez had 5. In fact, he almost had less podiums than Carlos Sainz. And also his win wasn't on merit. Bottas' win was on merit at that Turkish Grand Prix. And at times it would look a lot shaky, but this was his first season with the team, so obviously he's just getting acclimatized with the team. Because in 2022, I think this was a lot better than 2021. He was able to jump from 5 to 11 podiums in the season, had 2 wins this year and in Monaco and in Singapore, and I personally believe that Singapore drive was his best of his entire career, not because I was there, because it was a genuinely exceptional drive, maintaining the lead for the whole race. And maybe if it wasn't for Verstappen not letting him buy in Japan, he could have finished P2, but no, he was 3 points behind Leclerc. That only would have been a 2-point swing to him, so probably wouldn't have. But still a question to propose, I guess. And getting a lot more experience in the top drive. You know, he's been in the midfield car for his entire career. Getting that experience in the top drive is finally giving him a lot more confidence. And that kind of showed for the first few races of 2023. And after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, people were considering him a serious title threat. And in Miami, he had the perfect opportunity to take the championship lead from Verstappen as Max was starting in P10. But what happened?
Max Verstappen comes out of the final corners. Max Verstappen wins the Miami Grand Prix.
And this would go on and on and on and on and on for the rest of the season, apart from Singapore. And Verstappen would have one of the most dominant seasons in F1 history. And Perez nearly fell to P3 to Lewis Hamilton, but he didn't because Mercedes had a pretty shaky end to the end of 2023. And a lot of people were saying after the season he should have been dropped for either Tsunoda or Ricciardo. I think that would have been the smart choice, but Red Bull kept him for one more season, I guess because Max likes him, and they also had a bit of faith in the man. That was the complete wrong decision, and this probably costed them the Constructors' title. Look how far behind he is to Lewis Hamilton in a car for majority of the season was considerably faster than the Mercedes. That ending in Abu Dhabi was genuinely pretty sad, and I hope this wasn't the last we see of him in the top level of motorsport. Hopefully he can find a seat in WEC, or maybe Cadillac can pick him up, but I'd rather have the Cadillac seat be Bottas and Colton Herta. So that'll do it for today's video. Let me know what you think of the current situation between Tsunoda and Lawson. Do you think Tsunoda will break the curse? Right. You might have to change this list up a bit. We might have to add Yuki to this list. Oh no.